Welcome guys to the life of P&K, as always in the garage, as always doing things to this car. Another phenomenal video, and you guys can see it. It's right here. Actually, let me go this way because of the sun, the way it's hitting. But you can see it's a full exhaust. And you might wonder, is this Valvetronic? Is this matte exhaust? What exhaust is this? How much money did you actually spend? Would you believe I tell you I spent under $1,000? Let me tell you why. So for our cars, there's actually multiple options of exhausts, varying anywhere between 2,500 bucks, 1,500 bucks, 1,700 bucks, whatever you want to call it. They all look about the same. And I started browsing online. I was like, there has to be a way to get the cheaper price for us consumers out there, because I'm not spending 2,500 bucks on an exhaust for a car when it's just some piping. Yes, it's stainless steel. Yes, it costs a lot, bending, whatever. It costs some money, but there's no way I was spending over 1,500 bucks. So I started looking online, trying to see what's available out there to the consumers, and I found Alibaba. So you guys obviously know this is purchased from Alibaba. But actually I contacted a lady that's very popular in the X3M world called Emily, and she kind of represents the brand CSZ. So this is a CSZ exhaust. If you want to think about this, let me tell you why I don't think it's a CSZ exhaust. You can call it just an exhaust. I don't think it has a brand, and let me show you why. And then we'll go over the quality a little bit of the exhaust. But if you flip it over, you can see it has RRP. The tips also show RRP. On the bottom of the muffler, there's an RRP sign. You guys will see that later. Why I'm saying this, don't quote me on this, but Valvetronic, matte, they only put their like branding here and there, and they get this from China. It's the same exact exhaust. They always say, oh, but mine has like laser welding. Well, look at the welds on this. They're pretty good. It even has actual support on the actual like a Y piece, so it prevents cracking right here where the welds are happening. To me, that's quality welding. And with shipping, I spent about 800 bucks. 800 bucks. This is 3 times less than an actual Valvetronic, 2 times less than a matte exhaust. And I'm sorry that I'm putting these names out there, but it's not fair to us as consumers to spend this type of money to get the same quality that you can get for a lot less. Granted, some might be better. Maybe Valvetronic uses better muffler. I doubt it. It's possible. Maybe these valve controllers are better. I don't think so. This is an OEM BMW one. I just don't see the upcharge on the actual like name brands other than the name itself. So anyway, I talked a lot about that. Let's go over the actual exhaust and let me tell you what I actually think of it and why I really like it. So we can start with the muffler, and I'm sorry, maybe you don't see very well because of the sun. I'll try my best, but we can start with the muffler. Pretty nice setup. This is OEM BMW controller because this one comes with 2 and our cars only have 1. So I have to transition mine here, make sure it works. And then there's a wiring harness like this with a clip. The clip is gonna go right here. But with the clip, the wiring harness, I'll hide the wires. I have to connect this guy, so then I have full control of both. And this one feeds from the OEM one as well, OEM as well. The tips are here. I'm not sure if they're oriented properly, but I haven't unwrapped them yet. But they're black RRP tips. They look actually really good. You'll see them better once they're on the car. Little elbow connectors. We will obviously have to transition the support mounting brackets here once the main exhaust is out of the car, and now I just have to put them here. Same thing here, some supports. You can see the quality, it's really nice. Obviously there's a lot of connecting pieces, which is with normal exhausts. The clamps are there. These are for the mufflers, or sorry, these are for the tips, and these are the big clamps. You have a big supporting clamp here. We'll show you it bolts into the body of the car on the bottom. The welding, again, looks pretty good. For 800 bucks and all that, I think the welding looks great. I mean, look at the Y pipe. It looks really nice. Really, really nice welding. And this is a downpipe connector. So you might wonder, what's this piece for? Where does this go? It doesn't go there, because this connects straight to the downpipe. So what this is, I believe, and I might be wrong, so down in the comments below, if you guys know better, please let me know. But this is a different neck, and I believe some cars, maybe in Europe or maybe Asia, they have different emissions, so they might have a different downpipe, or this might be aftermarket downpipe. I'm not exactly sure 100%, but I think that's what it is. It's based on emissions, different connectors, so they provide as well this, which is nice. It's an extra pipe. We won't really use it on the car because we don't need it, but it's nice for them that they provide this extra piece. So with all that said, I'm gonna start working on the car. I'm gonna start raising the car up, getting it ready to replace the exhaust. I'm not gonna show everything in video because I think it's a waste of you guys' time. I'm gonna get straight to the points. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise the car. I'm gonna show you how I'll raise the rear because there's two spots I think I'm gonna use, and I'm gonna show you guys what I'm gonna do. I think those are the correct spots to use. Maybe not, we'll find out. I already supported the front tire, so we're good on that side. So what I'm gonna do is raise the car, remove the plastic pieces on the bottom. It's a lot of them, a lot of bolts. You guys don't need to watch this. Once that's removed, I'll start taking down the exhaust, and I'll show you what you have to unbolt, what you have to touch, and so on. So we'll get there. I'm running out of breath too. I was sick for 2 or 3 weeks, and even just talking now, it's difficult for me. So sorry if you hear me like breathe hard, but it's been quite the sickness. It wasn't COVID, it wasn't the flu. It was something else. I don't know what it is, but it was tough. It was tough getting through it. But anyway, let me work on the car. Let me get everything organized, and I'll be back.
2,000 years later.
So guys, there's 2 jacking points under the car on the back where you can raise the whole back. One of them is actually on the differential itself. I don't want to use this one. You can put like a flat plywood or something, like a piece of wood, and like raise it. I just don't feel very confident that that's a good spot to put it there. Or maybe right there, I don't know exactly, because on some cars there's actual like circular spot where you can put the jack. Here you don't have that. So I really use this where the bracing is, and this aluminum, whatever you want to call it, like connector, big bracing piece. It's totally fine because it's connected to the frame, and we're good. I think it's better than using that, and this works better. It's closer too, so the jack doesn't have to go all the way in. But that's it. So this is what it looks like. So what I have to do is actually loosen up these guys here. You can see the bolt, so I can drop this. This is left, and there's probably one there on the right. This is the factory valve controller, so I'll have to disconnect it here, remove it from here, and put it on the other exhaust, the other muffler. That's pretty much it. So the first thing, as I said, is I have to remove these plastic pieces everywhere. Here, there's 2 to remove that brace. I'll show you closer. So here are the plastic pieces. There's a lot of little bolts that I have to remove on this side and that side. And you can see the CPM brace has been on there for a bit. It's doing its job, so I have to remove that as well to free up the factory exhaust. And you can see, there it is, downpipe is right there, the connector. That's pretty much it, not much else to do. I don't think I have to remove any of these plastics. Maybe I do, who knows? But we'll see. So I'm gonna work on this. It's gonna take me a while. I won't waste your time, as I said, and I'll be back when the plastics are off, the brace is off, and those 2 braces, you see those 2 long pieces right there. I'll have to remove those as well because they block the exhaust. So basically, that's all I have to do for now. Let me get working and I'll be back with you guys. Okay guys, so the plastic pieces are removed, and this is kind of like the exposed exhaust. I don't really need to remove anything else but these braces. And these braces are connected here and over there on the frame. I don't know if you can see it back there. But one thing to remember is once you loosen these, you're probably wondering how they're still saying. Don't try to pull on this because you can break this little connector right here. It's a different bolt. I think these were 60 millimeters. And then this one is probably, I would say like a 15 maybe. I'll have to take a look, but this is what's gonna be holding your braces up. So be careful, don't start pulling on this. Other than that, we're almost there. We're gonna start removing the actual exhaust. So we're in the front side of the car, and it's a little bit of a tight fit because the car is raised from the back. But there's a supporting bracket here where it supports, like I guess, after the downpipe outlet. So this supporting bracket has to come off, and then there's the connector to the downpipe here. This has to get loosened, and this I will push back. So what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna start here in the front, and everything else in the back has support, so I'm gonna leave that for last. And then maybe we'll put a jack under this resonator, I guess if you wanna call it. But what I'm noticing is the only difference is this resonator. The exhaust is pretty much the same. So some people, if they want to remove their resonator and connect the pipe, I know it's not going to be ideal, but it can work for you too. It would be a cheap exhaust option basically. The exhaust is down. This, all you have to do is like wiggle it a little bit. It's a little bit of a struggle, but I found a way of doing it. If you drop the rear all the way, the muffler down low, this gets a lot easier to wiggle, so you can just move it up and down and it comes out. So it's a little bit of a struggle, but not too bad. Obviously, if you have another person helping you, that would be great. So the exhaust is out, so I'm gonna set it up right over there next to the aftermarket one, and we can compare. Here is the factory one, and here is the aftermarket. One thing I noticed, guys, in the aftermarket, this might have been through shipping or whatever, but this pipe right here, it's bent. It shouldn't be a problem because the tips is actually, this is the female part and this is the, sorry, this is the female part and this is the male part. So it should be okay. But also on this side too, this is a little bit pinched. I don't know if you guys can tell from the angle. So it's hard for this pipe itself to go in. After like a lot of, you know, moving around and adding some strength to it, it comes in. But it's difficult. So we'll see if maybe they can replace this muffler. It should be an easy replacement. But now what we have to do is transfer this guy, which is the factory valve controller, over here and make sure this valve works. And that's pretty much it. And then I'm going to transfer these supports, the rubber ones. I'm going to take them out from here, transfer them to this muffler. They'll go here and here, and then these two will go there and there. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to work on that and come back when it's all done. Oh, and another point, almost forgot. When you're installing the aftermarket one, you want to start from the muffler back, so that way you avoid any fitment issues or anything like that. Because if you start from the downpipe to the muffler, there might be some fitment issues with the exhaust. It's always better to work, I'm guessing, where the heavier part starts and then adjust from there. So guys, for the exhaust hangers, I don't have the exhaust hanger removal tool. I think that's what it's called. I don't know actually. But for these, I used, on this side, I used a screwdriver and sort of pried the rubber. It has like, I don't know if you can see, but it has little groovets or like little teeth or whatever you want to call it. And I used the screwdriver for this to extend it a little bit. And then it came right out. For back here, for these, it was, actually let me show you with the ones that were sitting sort of like this, so I just used the screwdriver to get leverage and just pull them out. So you don't really need a tool, but that's what I did. And now we're gonna remove this right here. And this is our valve controller, BMW. This is the original one. It doesn't seem like it uses the same spring they're using here. You can see it just straightly goes to the valve itself. The guys for the exhaust provided the spring, but I'm not sure if I can use it. So we'll see how it works. I'll have to manage it. But I like the setup better because it's not using a clip like this. Here, I think this does the same thing. I just have to set it up like that. The spring is on. What I did is actually, because I couldn't force it by hand, I used the factory bolts. So the ones I provided are a little bit too short, you can see. So I used the factory bolts and I put the actual like spring or whatever you want to call it, I put it here, and then I used the bolts to sort of press it down into place, and that worked actually really well. But again, you have to use the factory bolts because the one they provide aftermarket are too short, and that won't work for your purpose. I have to put in these rubber guys on here, and we can actually start putting the muffler on the car. One thing to know, guys, is the connection to the downpipe. They're giving you this clamp, and this clamp by diameter, it's too large. It looks like it fits, but once you put it on the actual piping, it looks too big. So you want to reuse this factory one. Unfortunately, it's welded. So what you can do is just grab it and go up, and it should start breaking the weld. You can see, you can do it with one hand. And just kind of wiggle the weld around and it should break off. Yep, there you go. And then I'm going to reuse the factory one. I want to keep everything as factory as possible while upgrading stuff. Alright guys, it's all installed. I would say it was a pain the tips are still wrapped, but I'll say it was a pain to actually align the tips. That probably took a long time. And also another portion that I struggle with a little bit is this. You can see that it's almost touching the heat shield. I'm trying to move it a lot, and it's pretty stable in place. And here you can see during the installation it was rubbing against this, but right now it looks fine. When everything got tightened up, it looks much better, but it's only like a millimeter of space. So I'm gonna try to see if I can maybe, once I put in this little brace that holds the diffuser to this, it might give it more space, but I might have to do something about it because it's close, it's very close. Other than that, the installation was simple. You can see the Y pipe all the way back there. Let me see if I can zoom in. All the way back there, it's looking good. RRP sign as well. RRP tips, RRP muffler. Apparently, no, it's actually just a writing on it. And then the RRP Y pipe all the way back there. No difference. They're all the same for all the exhausts. Just the branding. As I said, you pay for the name. All right, guys, it's all finally set. It took me a lot longer than I expected, but there's a reason why. That's what it looks like. I love the blackout tips. They look really nice. And if we dive in under the car, you can see the RRP sign right here. This is the muffler. Let me show you what I did with the wiring. So you have to reuse your OEM valve controller, so you have to wire it. So there is a splitter that they give you. Basically what it is this point, I flipped it over so I can hide the wire behind the heat shield, and then I drop the wire to here, connect to the first valve controller, then the splitter goes through again in the heat shield, all the way back. I guided it through these wiring harness, and then I dropped it through here. So it has limited exposure to the heat, only these wires, but they're not even touching, they're far away. So this is good. The rest, this is what it looks like. The part that took the most time is actually aligning the exhaust properly, because if you look at the mid brace right there, it was the pipes were touching. Even now the clearance is not a lot, it's still enough. It's about 2-3 millimeters and it's not going anywhere. Even if you shake the exhaust, it's not making any noise. But it was hard to align. So what I had to do is actually use a jack under the Y pipe and jack up the car as much as, or not the car, sorry, the exhaust as much as possible, high up, and then tighten up all the clamps around the exhaust. That gave me enough clearance to where it's not rubbing on the mid brace right there. Everything else pretty much bolted on its own. It was pretty nice. And this is what it looks like. Basically from the ground up, I guess. And the muffler, it all looks really good. I think it's overall, oh, another point to make is right here. You can see where it's sort of touching. Right now it has a couple millimeter space, and it's, even if you shake the exhaust, it's not touching, so this is really good. On this side, I actually had to sort of bend it a little more, because this side is a little bit different than that side. You can see how much space you have here, and here you don't. I don't know what's here, it's some type of reservoir or something. Maybe the battery, this is where the battery goes. But here it was touching a lot more, so what I had to do is actually bend this. It's really easy to do. You can just do it with your finger like that, and it just bends upwards. But you can't use this screw here, because this would end up pulling the aluminum down. So you can't have that. So you have to leave this hanging. It's not a bad thing. Everything else tightened up properly. You could do the same thing here if you're concerned. I'm not. Well, we'll start it up and see how it is. But yeah, it's all set. Again, it took a lot longer than expected. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, my back's aching. So let's hear it at a cold start. I'm gonna have to lower the car and start it up. So here's the exhaust. It's sitting in the backyard. I really don't have space to put it anywhere else. In the garage there's no space. So the only space was in the backyard. It's a pretty big piece. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know if I'm going to sell it or just turn it in for scrap metal. It's heavy. So I think it's about 20 pounds or so, a little bit more. And you can tell it's a different day. I wanted to take some time to actually live with the exhaust, to give you my full opinion of what I think of it. So I'm going to go from the packaging, the installation, living with it, and talk a little bit about the pricing, the cost, and what actually you can do with the stock exhaust if you want to get a cheap upgrade. So first let's talk about the packaging. The packaging was actually really good. It took a long time for the shipment because I chose the cheaper route. It was to do it via water and not via air, so it takes about 30 days or so to get it. Not bad. I was more worried about the actual damage in the exhaust. And in the video you saw there was a couple pinched areas, especially around the muffler. Actually the muffler was the only impacted piece. And I think that happened during the shipment process or the traveling. I don't think it's a quality issue. I think it's more of a shipping issue where the vendor that shipped it, they might have pinched the box here and there where it would actually damage the exhaust. But overall they put like these nice plastic pieces on the box itself, which really helps support the box and keep everything kind of neat and tidy. Packaging was actually really good. It took a while to get out of customs, about, I don't know, 2 weeks, I think, maybe almost 3 weeks to get out of customs, or the shipping process from customs to the hub. But then once it got to actually FedEx delivered the package, once it got to FedEx, it took a couple days to get to me. So not bad at all. Once it's in the States and passes the customs, it's not bad at all. The next thing I want to talk about is the quality. So you can see from the stock, the welds are not bad. The supports are better. I would say from the stock, it has more of a support. But the welds look okay, they look normal. But the actual CSZ exhaust, actually the welds are really good. They're laser welds, they look phenomenal, everything looks excellent. So for the welds I'm not concerned about at all. My only concern is because it's so many pieces, you can tell the factory one is one piece. This one comes in multiple pieces, so my concern was actually to tighten everything properly to where it doesn't leak. And this also leads to another topic that I want to discuss with you guys, and that's actually how difficult it was to align the exhaust. But back to the quality, everything worked phenomenally. It fit really well, except towards the end you saw in the video where I had to bend the aluminum a little bit to make it fit properly. I think if you can adjust the exhaust even better, I spent a lot of time adjusting it. If you can adjust it better, it should fit properly. I don't think the fitment should have this problem, but I'm okay with it. It's not a big issue. It was simple to adjust, so I was able to do it. No problems there. The fitment, again, pretty good. So the next point, and kind of touched on it, is I want to talk about the installation. Actual installation took a long time. So let's say the stock exhaust took about an hour to remove it or so. The actual alignment and installation took me literally 6 hours. I'm a OCD perfectionist type of thing, but there was a lot of issues that I had to deal with when it comes to the fitment because I had some help, but it wasn't enough. And what I mean by that is you need maybe a third person to align everything properly and to hold everything in place. The first issue I had is actually aligning everything, putting it properly, making sure the mufflers, or making sure that the tips are actually sitting properly. But then when I get to actually reinstalling the parts underneath the car, so the mid brace, the actual pipes were rubbing on the mid brace. Luckily there was a person on a Facebook group that helped me out a lot and said actually use a jack to jack up the Y pipe, or around that area to jack up the Y pipe, and that way this will give you enough clearance on the actual bracing, the mid brace. And then tighten up everything as much as you can, especially the downpipe clamp afterwards. Leave it for last, but tighten up as much as you can. Once I did that, once I jacked up everything as much as possible, I actually pushed it to almost like the bending point. I did that, tightened up all the clamps, and actually I have about 3mm space between the actual mid brace and the exhaust, so that worked out perfectly. So that's another recommendation if you guys are watching this video this far out. That's a recommendation for you guys to actually do that from the beginning. It will save you a lot of time. And then we get to the tips part. The actual tips look phenomenal. Once they're aligned and put in place, they look amazing. At least in my mind, they look really good. However, to get to that point, it's a lot of like, okay, tighten this, go underneath, look at it, tighten that, go outside, look if it's aligned, and so on. It just kept on like going back and forth, back and forth. So that took probably a good 30 minutes or 45 minutes of just like fixing things a little bit. And there's also other options where you fix one part, but then the next part will get misaligned, so you have to finagle the tips a lot. So my only gripe with the installation is that aligning is terrible. They could have done, I don't know why they did it. They did it because of shipping, but they could have done maybe two parts, maybe muffler and here, and then leave this together, or maybe 3 parts total. Well, they actually kind of did 3 parts, but they're separate. So that's my gripe. The installation is a pain in the butt. Not sure if it's due to the fitment issue, but I'm sure with any exhaust, all the big exhausts like the Valvetronic, the matte exhaust, whatever, they're all gonna have the same issue because they come the same way. They come in many pieces, and you have to put it out to get it and align it. Even some other brands, I've heard alignment is it's a mess. You have to do certain things. But overall, it wasn't too bad, to be honest. So now let's talk about cost. And everyone is concerned about the Chinese quality. It's coming from China. Oh my God, it's gonna be terrible. The welds are gonna not work. It's gonna crack. It's gonna, break, whatever. The point is, everyone gets their stuff from China. There's no one, I don't know, any of the big names exhausts. Not a lot of them, maybe a very small percentage, make it in-house. A Krapovic, for example, they make it in, I think it's Croatia. They make it perfect. It's great. I would pay premium for that exhaust if they made one for our cars and they could afford it. But with these, everyone gets their stuff from China and they just slap their name brand on it. You can see in the exhaust that installed, RRP, which is another company that sells exhaust for our cars, I think they're charging like $1,800 for it now, and they use that. They just slap their like little name, and that's it. For us as consumers, I want to make sure we don't spend a lot of money. I don't have money, or I don't have the extra residual income to pay for the extra margin that they're trying to charge. Like the Valvetronic, the exhaust is like $2,500. That's insane, and you get the same thing. If you look at the pictures, this CSZ exhaust was exactly the same thing. It comes with the same valves. If you opt for the aftermarket valves where you have the remote looks exactly the same. It just does not have the branding. And it's stocked. It's coming straight from Valvetronic. It doesn't matter. So if I could find something in China that's the same quality, it does the same function, and actually it sounds really good. You guys saw it in the videos, the sound clips. It sounds really good. Why not? And save actually a lot of money. The cost about this, so I opted out. It was a little bit more pricey because I opted out for an OEM valve controller because you need 2 and you reuse one from your car. Otherwise, they provide 2 aftermarket ones. I had to wait a couple weeks for that to actually, come to them because they have to order that BMW valve controller. So that's why it took a little bit longer for the shipping. With that information in hand, you might be wondering, what did I actually pay for this? I paid about $800, give or take $50. And why I'm saying that is there was a lot of moving parts. This was part of a group buy, so they were able, I think they gave us like $100 discount or so, but also we saved on shipping because we all decided to do by boat, which is a lot cheaper than going by air. And I think you can do that on Alibaba as well. And also, why it was a little bit more expensive then, so the savings kind of like negated that portion, was because I decided to go with the secondary OEM valve controller. I wanted to reuse my modes in the car. So I didn't like want to wire anything into the trunk, nothing like that. I wanted to reuse that. So what they do is they provide an OEM valve controller, but they provide a splitter. So you reuse your own from the car, and then for the secondary, you just use the wiring, and it provides a splitter. The splitter. You guys saw in the video how I installed it or how I hid the wires, which actually turned out really good. So overall, not too expensive. Again, it's under $1,000. Any way you look at it, even without the group buy, you will pay under $1,000. I'll put a link down in the description of where I got it from Alibaba, but also you guys can contact CSZ Emily on Facebook. She has her WhatsApp number on there too. Very responsive person, really easy to work with. She's top notch when it comes to actually customer service, I would say, because she, again, very responsive, very helpful, always on point, always answer. Sometimes you contact customer service, even domestically, you contact customer service, and it'll do a pretty crappy job of getting back to you. Again, I'll put the details down in the description. Very happy with the actual exhaust. Sounds phenomenal, especially in reality, because through the video, like microphones, cameras, whatever, I'm not sure how well you guys can hear it. But in reality, it sounds really good. The only thing that I'm kind of disappointed about is when it shifts between like first and second or second and third, there used to be this like brap noise that the car made. Now it doesn't have it. Now it just like shifts. I'm not sure if it's due to the exhaust or something else. I'm pretty sure it's due to the exhaust. But I thought I thought that part was like tune related versus actual exhaust, but who knows? So that's the only downfall of it. I would say this thing in comfort, eco, it sounds super quiet. Like you can't even hear inside the cabin, which is really good. Outside you can hear it a little bit more, but inside the cabin it's super silent. You guys saw in the video too. In comfort, when you punch it, you can hear it, but eco, you don't hear anything, because I believe the stock one, let me show you. The stock one just uses one valve controller. So when you're in like a comfort, eco, this is always closed, and then it's like a straight pipe basically going through this. With the aftermarket exhaust, it uses two valves, so they can be more closed, and you get like a more of a silent exhaust or noise, which I really like. I really enjoy. I would say the factory one is a little bit lighter than the actual aftermarket one, and the reason why that is I think because of all the clamps, all the connecting pieces, and so on. It gets a little bit heavier, but overall I think they're very compatible. Like when it comes to the weight, just one is one piece, that one is like multiple pieces. And also, what I want to talk to you about cost is this. So this exhaust looks exactly the same. The fitment is exactly the same as the CSZ exhaust. Everything is identical. The only difference is this resonator. So this resonator, if you want to do something on your own and you can find a shop to do it properly for you, like they can do the good welds, you can just remove this white piece, like right, or you can remove this resonator and put a white piece like they use in the CSZ exhaust, and you have the same thing with factory piping, factory everything. And I don't think they'll be that expensive, maybe $500 or less, depending of how much they have to work to get the white pipe connected and working properly or welded. You don't have to use clamps, just weld it, and I think it'll be the same. If you want to go farther, maybe spend some more money, replace the muffler, get like a Magnaflow muffler, get something that will fit. But I think this muffler is fine. So I think overall you can have a cheap upgrade by just replacing the resonator, the white pipe, and you should get the same noise. Oh, another thing I almost forgot is in the video you guys saw that I had to reuse the factory downpipe clamp. Maybe CSZ can take a look at that and provide a smaller clamp, because once you put the clamp, the diameter is too large, so it doesn't work properly. But that's the only kind of like downfall. The bending from shipping and the clamp did not quite fit. Everything else was fine. Everything else was great. For the money you're saving, I think it's worth it. And overall, what I forgot to mention is living with the exhaust, and it's been really good. It's quiet when you want it to be quiet, and it's loud when you want it to be loud, which is best of both worlds. My wife loves it. She doesn't love loud cars, but she likes this because it's quiet when it needs to be quiet. I know this video was a little bit longer than typical, but I wanted to give you guys the full picture from installation to actually living with it for a little bit, giving you the sound clips that you probably desire to see in different mode how it sounds. I don't think there's much difference, to be honest. The only biggest difference is a Sport Plus. That sounds brutal. It sounds really good. My car is stock. Nothing has really changed other than like some bracing and an intake. The car is pretty much stock. No tuning, no downpipe, nothing like that, and it sounds pretty good. I want to say thank you guys for watching this video, giving me some of your time. Hopefully you guys were able to learn something or make a decision of what you want to do moving forward. There's a lot of options out there for when it comes to an exhaust, and I think this is to me the best option when it comes to budget-friendly quality. It's really good. But again, appreciate your time, and if you guys enjoyed this video or if it helped you, feel free to comment or smash the like button, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.